Hey, good morning, Horizon. I don't have a whole lot of time this morning, but I want to let you know that I'm going to start a new little series on these YouTubes on Tuesday and Thursday morning about why I believe what I believe about Christianity. And this comes from a question that I got from somebody. We had watched on last Wednesday night. We watched a video about the Muslim faith, and somebody had asked me afterwards, very kind of I think a normal question, a very good question. Who says we're right as Christians? The Muslim people, the Jewish people, Hindus, etc. They of course all believe that what they believe is right and true. And who says we're right? What is there to say that Christians are right? Can they all be right? Can they both be right? Can some be right, etc.? So I'm going to talk for the next couple times that we get together about why I believe in faith in Christianity. What I am not going to do is I'm not going to take a whole lot of time to critique any other faiths. I'm not sure there's a whole lot of value in that as an outsider, because my experience has been whenever I see an outsider talk about what Christians believe, they never quite get it right. And although I have a lot of books on my shelf about other world religions and what they believe, it's always from the perspective of an outsider. And my sense is probably we never quite get it right. So rather than trying to dissect what other religions believe and compare them to Christianity, I'm just going to talk about why I believe what I believe about faith. And it's going to take a while. And I'm never going to be able to answer it completely in one particular video. Rather, I'm going to choose to talk about multiple reasons why I believe what I believe. And of course, at times, I'm sure that I'll talk about other faiths, but not in the sense of necessarily, kind of dissecting them and saying what they believe. I just don't think that that's fair. Probably wouldn't be accurate. So rather than doing that, just talk about what I believe. And the person who asked this question, again, this is probably just a very common thing. They asked, do we believe what we believe just because it's the way we've been brought up? In other words, I've been brought up to be a Christian. And let me just say that there's a lot of truth to that. And that's just true by observation. All you have to do is look around the world and look at neighborhoods and understand that people who believe particular religions often do because that's what their parents believe. That's what their community believe. So there's certainly some truth to that. And if I were to answer the question why I believe what I believe, that would certainly be one of the answers. That I believe what I believe because of the way I've been brought up and the people that I see. And let me explain it this way. What I've observed about Christianity, and one of the reasons that I believe what I believe is because I've observed that it works. And it's a very pragmatic approach. There's nothing wrong with pragmatism sometimes, that it works. I've seen people close up for whom faith works. Smart people, people who aren't so smart, hardworking people, etc. People who for whom faith works. Think about my dad, for example, who some of you will know that my dad witnessed the murder of his parents when he was 15 years old, and really struggled with faith for a while. And if there's a God, why God would let him do that? And some of you have heard my dad's story, not all of you, but in my dad's struggle, it was ultimately faith, and in particular the beliefs about Christianity that helped him to survive and helped him to be grounded and to live a very productive, good, meaningful life. Helped him to be able to forgive the person who killed his parents. Helped him to understand that you can still seek justice. Helped him to cope, to have hope, etc. Helped him to forgive his parents for some of the things that had gone on, etc. What I've observed about Christianity in the lives of people is that it works. And of course, now I know that some of you are thinking, well, people in other faiths would say the same thing, and they would, and that's true. But again, I'm talking about why I believe what I believe, and it works. And here's the thing that I've observed and that I know: people who don't believe, people who are outside of faith, knowingly outside of faith, people who, in other words, rejected Christianity, many times what they must do is they actually have to live by the values of Christianity in order to live productively and successfully. And when I talk about the fact that I believe what I believe because I see that it works, what I mean by that is that if you live by the values of Christianity, by what Christianity teaches, it makes for good living. It makes for people who live most successfully. And by successfully, I don't mean only, the whole capitalist thing that, there are people who, do well in life, but I mean people who do good. They live good lives. They live good lives as individuals. They live good lives in families. They live good lives in neighborhoods and in communities and in cultures and in the world. And the values of Christianity, I believe, help us to live the very best lives. And so people who reject faith actually have to live by the values of Christianity in order to do that. And what I mean by that is there are people who've rejected faith who will argue when people of any faith, Christianity, when people of faith say that you have to be a person of faith to be moral, for example, and to have purpose and to have value in life. I believe that. I believe it's that it is the fact that faith gives us ultimate meaning that allows us to live productive lives. But people who reject Christianity will say, well, you can be moral and be an atheist, for example. You can be moral and be an agnostic, etc. You can have purpose and be an atheist. And that's true, but not logically true. In other words, they must choose to say, I want to be moral, I want to have purpose, but there's no foundation for that. Now, I know it sounds like I'm taking apart another belief system, and in a sense, yes, but for me, the issue is that if I rejected faith, then I'm not just rejecting this little belief system that I have, going to church, etc., but that I'm also ultimately rejecting all things of ultimate value and purpose, and the belief that there's a God and that this God has a purpose for a universe and this God has a purpose for me. So what happens is you have people who reject faith, but then they must live by the values of Christianity in order to live moral, meaningful, purposeful lives. And they certainly can live those lives apart from faith, but they must adopt the values of faith in order to do that. And I know people would argue with that, but I think logically that's the conclusion that you have to come to. So for me, one of the reasons that I believe, and of course, like I said, this is just I'm going to take reasons 1 week at a time, and I don't have a lot of time this morning. I've got a 9:00 appointment, so I have to record this and get on. But one of the reasons I believe is that of course I've been brought up in it, but what that means is I've seen it and I've seen it work. And I've seen people who live by faith for whom I've seen, this thing works. It makes for the very best kind of living. People who are able to live the best lives. And that doesn't mean that there's never any problems. It means that when you confront problems, there's a way to deal with them. When you have failures, there's a way to deal with them, etc. So that's one of the reasons that I believe. In fact, when I go back to my high school years, those years when, junior high, high school, college, some of those years when most of us are, kind of moving out of our parents' shadow and wanting to create for ourselves, our own life. I never was a rebel, never went through that stage. Having grown up in the church, I saw firsthand what rebellion looked like, and it wasn't pretty. And I kept thinking, why would I want to do that? I would just be cleaning up messes for the rest of my life. So I never really went through any period of rebellion, but I went through a period of questioning, like many people do. And I asked, is Christianity real? I remember very for a while having that thought of I'm not going to just keep doing this because it's the way I was brought up. And I also remember thinking it's either going to matter to me or it's not, but I'm not going to play the game. I'm not just going to sit on the fence. And during those years, I would say, I mean, I read books, I thought about it, etc. But by far the most significant reason for me to say, yeah, this is what I want, is in observing the lives of the people who were people of faith, and thinking, yeah, it works for them and it's real for them. And I've heard their stories and I can tell you about, I could listen to people even talk about things like miracles that happened in their lives. And so it worked. And for me, that was one of the main reasons why I said, yeah, this is the way I'm going to live. This is what I'm going to believe. I am going to follow Jesus with my life because of what I've observed in people. So one of the reasons that I believe is for that. Now we're going to talk about a lot more reasons over the next couple of weeks. I don't know if it'll be weeks, but probably the next couple of weeks we'll talk about reasons one at a time. We'll be dissecting why I believe. As I said, my goal is not to, one by one dismantle other faiths or belief systems. I don't think that that's necessarily fair. I'll have to at times to talk about that. But for the most part, just going to examine Christianity and talk about why I think Christianity is true and why it works. And I'm sure some of these will be somewhat maybe deep. I don't know. But I hope it's meaningful and hope what we talk about will matter. But that's what we're going to do in the next couple of weeks. I really got to get out of here and get on. I got a 9 o'clock appointment I got to get to, and I got to prep for that ahead of time. So anyway, love you all. Hope you have a good day, and we will see you probably live on Thursday morning. Goodbye.